Hello and welcome to That Shooting Show. My name's Steve Anderson. I am your humble host. Want to remind you we are a proud service of Walther Firearms with the industry's only 30-day money-back guarantee. If you buy a Walther firearm for competition use and you don't like it for any reason, Walther will give you all of your money back. That's not very likely to happen, but if there's something wrong with you, not necessarily the gun, and it isn't the firearm of your dreams, 30-day money-back guarantee from Walther Firearms. Also want to let you know, Targets USA manufactures the finest steel targetry on the planet. That's all there is to it. It's portable, it's affordable, and it is the best. CR Speed, as you know, makes the finest gun handling gadgetry you can wrap around your waist. Hunter's HD Gold is the only eyewear that I wear. And the mighty AMG-Lab.com Commanderson timer continues to turn heads and blow minds by putting the time into the tablet. Let's see, where are we? OutdoorDynamics.net, as you know, remanufactures the finest competition ammunition you can dispense from a Freedom Seed dispenser. And Shooting Sports Innovations is a lot to type because there is a lot to see. Let's make sure we got them all. Targets USA, CR Speed, AMG, Hunter's HD Gold is the only eyewear that I wear. That's the one we forgot. Hunter's HD Gold is the only eyewear that I wear, and those of you that got to see me at the Sir Walther Gun Club last weekend know that I was rocking the rubies all day. It was a beautiful day outside, super bright, super sunny, tailor-made for the rubies. The rubies are great in extreme sunlight. They are not quite as good in non-extreme sunlight. So for 100% use all day long, the gold's where it's at. If you know it's going to be bright and sunny and stay that way, the rubies are a little bit better for that environment. Let's see, that covers everybody. Outdoor Dynamics, ShootingSportsInnovations.com. We already did Walther, and we are good to go. So this past weekend, we got to do a class in North Carolina. I got to use my yont to and y'all, and I learned that hi and hey need to have 3 syllables in the South, so let's try that. Hi and hey. I think that's only 2 syllables. I believe I was told 3, but perhaps 2 is like the intermediate step to go full-blown Southern. I'm not sure, but I had a great time. Got to work with a bunch of great shooters, a lot of up-and-comers, some people I've seen before, some people I haven't seen before, and to quote my mother, oh, we had the best time. And many of our shooters also had the best time. Oh, it was wonderful. And we got to do one of my favorite things to do, which is do a match after class. That is probably the most value I can provide for you. Match mode is, of course, my specialty. And, you know, dragging you kicking and screaming into match mode, holding you there, keeping you there, that's the best value I can provide. Getting a subconscious stage plan, getting a singular focus, doing all of those things without thinking of speed or technique. That's really the key, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's do the letter first before I forget. We do have a letter from a buddy, and we'll start there. Let me make sure I get his actual question. Here we go. Podcast topic idea. How to avoid hitting the panic button when the excrement strikes the oscillator on a stage, i.e., don't know what that means. You can't make up for lost time by going full on bullet hose. All right, so anytime something costs you some time in a stage, you got to shoot points. For 2 reasons. Number 1, so that you'll know exactly what to do after a severe malfunction or dropping a magazine or getting turned around or whatever it is. Anytime you've lost a bunch of time on a stage, your job is to shoot points for 2 reasons. Number 1, so that you'll know what to do. And number 2, it's the best chance you've got of salvaging your hit factor. And potentially third, man, you lose 10 seconds to a malfunction and then you go put a bunch of mics and no-shoots on top of that. That is insult upon injury. That is an insultuous, injurious sandwich made of many layers of insult and injury. So if something costs you time, know ahead of time, my job now is to shoot points. And we learned a bunch. And remember, in competition shooting, your job is to make every mistake you can make once and once only. Learn from that mistake, write down what you've learned so you don't seem to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Making the same mistake over and over again is not smart, not in life, not in shooting. Making mistakes once, that's good for you. right? Making a mistake you can learn from. Like those of you on the YouTube, you can see the box of food there above my right shoulder. I'm pointing at it right now. Okay, that's from my stepson, Zach, who has made a very serious mistake. He got mixed up with a girl that wasn't good for him. And everybody can see it when that happens. You young men know what I'm talking about. Your buddies get mixed up with the wrong girl. You can spot it a mile away. He can't see it. And poor Zach got himself into that very same situation with a girl that's not good for him, and he's extricating himself from that. It's a mistake I've made. It's a mistake we've all made as young men, and it's a mistake that we don't need to make again. So let's talk about the things we learned at the match. Number one, we got to go through this pretty quickly because I'm on kind of a time crunch today. I've got a mental management marathon coming up. Oh, by the way, you can always go to andersonshooting.com, upcoming classes, and see everything we have available. If you want to do mental management and you don't see a time on there that suits your fancy, you let me know the time that does suit your fancy, and we will do it at a time that is fancy and suits you. So, number one. Anytime you're walking stages, you must know the round count and the start position before you start walking the stage. If you don't know the start position, you're wasting your time. I mean, one of the shooters said, yeah, you can get the lay of the land. I get it. You can. But you're building things potentially into the subconscious with repetition that are not going to be applicable to your actually plan. I remember one year at Nationals, they had the stages all laid out and not a start position in sight. So what are we looking at here, guys? Yeah, you can get a rough idea what's going on, but until you know the start position and the round count. Oh, and to make matters worse, we started the pre-walk. They didn't even have all the targets hung. So you weren't even really to count the targets. You weren't even really able to count the targets you could see. Again, you can kind of get the lay of the land, but I wouldn't go getting into too much detail without the round count and the start positions. Any stage with a memory component, every stage has a slight memory component, but some have greater memory components than others. This was a very, very well-run match. A lot of great stages, I would say state match level stages. I think there were 8 of them, 6 or 8. 6 maybe 8. I'll remember here shortly. But at least 2 of them had a pretty serious memory component, and we had shooters forget targets. And that happened because they didn't have the round count in their visualization. Now, one of them actually saved himself. One of them saved himself and said, hey, I'm supposed to get to 32. I keep getting to 34. He was shooting on them twice. He figured it out. Now, obviously, shooting one twice is better than not shooting one at all. But if there's any kind of memory component, it will absolutely require the round count and the visualization. If it's 32, you better get to 32 every single time. Anything briefly considered will produce a brain fart later, so be very careful what you consider. Brain fart occurs when we have looked at 2 options and considered 2 things multiple times. So we have some reps of option A, some reps of option B. Well, the more times you do that, the more likely you are to get a brain fart. So think of that as Brussels sprouts and coffee, preparing your brain fart, choosing wisely, choosing soon, and not considering multiple plans for very long will reduce brain farts. Your reload must go in your movie. Had a lot of shooters forget reloads and go to slide lock. Some of that was because we had a few IDPA shooters from the International Doberman Pinscher Association. They're used to going to slide lock. If IDPA is your thing and you're worried about mixing the strams, go to slide lock in USPSA. It's perfectly fine. But any place you need to do a reload must go in your movie. This is another thing that happens when you consider 2 places to reload. You should always reload in the longest period of non-shooting. That's probably about a 99%er. Maybe that's 100%. But the reload, the vast majority of the time, will take place in the longest period of non-shooting. So put that in your movie. If you're going to activate the mover, and then you're going to do some other stuff, and then come back for the mover, that will require great shot calling. Anytime, so I call that doing homework, right? We're going to pop the activator, we're going to do some homework, we're going to come back for the mover. If you miss that activator and go on to do your homework, you're going to be in for a rude surprise when you come back to see that activator smiting you, and it will be smiting you like the almighty smiter. So it requires great shot calling. We saw several examples of people going for the hero move and missing some stuff, and it didn't work out very well. So homework after the activation requires great shot calling. The shooter that did it the best was our single stack shooter. He just smoked it. And when you're a single stack shooter, you know, hey, whatever mistake I make is very likely to produce a standing reload, or far more likely in the case of single stack to produce a standing reload. Those folks tend to get it right because they know that they've got to get it right. And that's also another example of deciding to be successful. The difference between, hey, I'm getting ready to do this thing versus I'm getting ready to try something. And you guys know the difference. Okay? Thinking about the next stage will damage the current stage. One of the things we had was we shot the little quote-unquote speed shoot. Don't like that term, but they use it a lot. And then they took them hot right to the classifier. Saw several instances of people thinking about the classifier while they were doing the speed shoot. I even made a speech beforehand. I said, listen, guys, they're going to run you hot between here, so make sure you visualize both stages. So thinking about the next stage will damage the current stage. Running stages back-to-back requires good preparation. That's related to number 6. I'm not a huge fan of doing that, but sometimes they do it. And you're going to have to do it if that's what they want to do it. So it requires better preparation when they run those stages back-to-back. Visualize stage A, visualize stage B, visualize the whole thing. Also related, number 8, small stages are commonly disrespected. On the aforementioned speed shoot, we had a couple of shooters forget a target right in the middle because they were thinking about the fancy stuff they were going to do at the end. They blew right past it. And it happened 2 times in a row, which leads me to think that potentially that next shooter saw what had happened, thought about what had happened, and said, ooh, I hope I don't forget that target, which is the same thing as thinking I'm likely to forget that target. Telling yourself not to do something makes it far more likely that you'll do it. Telling yourself to do the opposite makes it far more likely to do the opposite. Hey, I need to remember every target. I need to make sure I get to round count. I think that stage was either 12 or 14 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That was a 14-round stage. And blowing past that target, not good for your score. So respect all stages the same. And if you treat every stage exactly the same, you won't have to worry about disrespecting the small ones. Okay. Number 9, a singular focus provides great shooting without controlling speed. Controlling speed is always an error. Always. Anytime you're thinking about going fast or going slow, you are making an error because you're activating the conscious mind. Yes, we know some stages will be spicy, some stages will be not so spicy. But thinking about what you need to see and shooting what you need to see is way better than controlling speed and will always provide the right speed. Minimizing the time spent not shooting is the most important part of stage planning. That is probably the only stage planning advice that is 100%. You need to minimize the time spent not shooting. Periods of movement need to be reduced or eliminated. Transitions is a significant amount of time between shooting. And of course, splits is the least amount of time spent not shooting. And frequently is the one people try to minimize at great peril. Number 11, if you're torn between 2 options, go with confidence. If you're splitting hairs between option A and option B, it probably doesn't matter that much. And because actual stage planning is not my strongest suit here in the shooting world, I called Jay Beal yesterday, who is a stage planner genius. I said, hey, Jay, on these stages that require you to go everywhere, like you guys know what I'm talking about. There's 6 corners. You got to go to every single corner. Does it really matter that much where you go first? What order you do it in? He goes, I've studied that. I've talked about that. And obviously, execution is going to be far more important, which we see over and over and over again. And as long as you don't do something catastrophically dumb, like first match dumb, it's pretty hard to get that wrong. And if you're torn between 2 options, go with confidence. Number 12, if you get tired or hot, who cares? Who cares? I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if you're hot. Focus up. Thinking about your stage preparation will prevent you from thinking about being hot or tired. In this sports grit, you only got to perform for 20 seconds at a time. And you can do that. Doesn't matter how hot or tired you are. You can perform for 20 more seconds. And if you find yourself feeling that way at local matches, that's great. That's great practice for larger matches. What if you were at nationals and it was 3 o'clock and you were hot and tired and you were on the big point stage? You going to give that one up? So practice for that in training, practice for that at your local matches. Number 13, I saw a lot of people moving around with their guns down by their waist. That is a subconscious habit that people develop. Shoot, 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 drop it into a low ready or a really low ready or a belly button low ready or even lower ready. And then move, get where you're going, and then bring it right back up. That is one of the easiest time savers in the sport, is to keep the gun above your chest. And I saw numerous people who were prone to do that while shooting. They were also doing it while they were walking the stage. So they're literally programming guns up and I'm shooting, now I'm moving, gun is down. So we had a couple people keep the gun above their chest during their walkthrough, and miraculously, they were more likely to keep the gun above the chest while they were actually shooting. You want that to happen without conscious thought, so programming it that way in your air gun in walkthrough will make that more likely. Number 14, the things you see, think, and talk about are likely to happen. So when you see somebody make a mistake, you think about it, you talk about it, you are making that more likely to happen to you. Be careful what goes in there. I think you're far better off doing a visualization on somebody else's start tone than you are watching them shoot, particularly if you're prone to rush, try, or hurry. So if you're at a stage and you're a carry optics B class shooter and you're getting ready to watch carry optics master or an open master shoot, is that really information that you need? What are you going to change after watching them shoot? Nothing. However, you could attempt to duplicate their cadence. You could attempt to duplicate their stage plan if they do something different. So there's no reason to watch that. But anything you see, think, and talk about is likely to happen in a competition environment, so be careful what goes in there. When the stage requires you to go everywhere, that's really all you can do. That's what I called Jay about, just to make sure that I was on the right track there. And if anybody knows a trick for deciphering go everywhere stages, I would love to hear about that. You could count steps potentially. There are some things you could do, but if it requires you to go everywhere, and the stage designer do that to me on purpose, hey, you're going to have to go to all 6 corners. Then what are you going to do besides go to all 6 corners? And if anybody has a silver bullet for that, I would love to hear what you've come up with. Okay, a low hit factor stage rewards great points and penalizes double tapping. As you know, I am not much of a hit factor wizard, but we got to a stage up on the hill there, Sir Walter Gun Club, and I knew it was going to be a low hit factor because it's got lots of movement where you can't be shooting. That equals a low hit factor. That means points have now become more important than normal. Hit factor below 5. For sure, you want to make sure there's a lot of alphas out there. I told them that, hey, gang, I want to see some alphas out here. This is going to be a low hit factor stage. I think the first guy that ran it was like a 3. That wasn't the highest hit factor. It was probably the average for everybody. In the 3, 4, I don't remember what the winner shot, but it's probably a little higher than that, obviously. But low hit factor stages reward great points. You don't need to know the number of the hit factor. You don't even know. You just need to know, hey, there's a lot of moving going on here where I can't be shooting. That's going to be a low hit factor. And that's going to require or reward good points. And for sure, penalize double tapping. Rehearse your muzzle direction during the walkthrough when retreating is required. We did have a shooter get DQ'd, unfortunately. There were, at least 2 stages that allowed and or required a retreat moving up range. And I saw a lot of people disrespecting that 180 during the walkthrough. That is something that you need to practice. Moving up range, retreating is getting more and more common. Back in my day, we hardly ever saw it. This would have been mid-90s, early 2000s. Moving up range was not a thing that we did very often. Now we're seeing it become much, much, much more common, so know how to do that. Your movie should be silent except for round count to prevent conscious override. If you're giving yourself a list of techniques to execute and a list of things to do, that will not be a subconscious performance. That will be a very conscious performance. You'll be cycling through a high number of conscious thoughts while you're shooting. This is not your best shooting. You guys know this. Think about the difference between a stage where you had 1 thought or 0 thoughts, how well that went, versus a stage where you gave yourself 30 things to do. Don't be giving yourself 30 things to do by putting a bunch of chatter in your visualization. Your movie should be silent except for round count. All right, we already did the text question. The text question was, when the excrement strikes the oscillator, how do I prevent going into full hose mode? By making that decision ahead of time. Just in general, right? If I have a time problem on a stage, I'm going to shoot points. That's what I'm going to do. So now we know what to do. The best example is if you leave for work 15 minutes late, you are not going to get those 15 minutes back in the car, not without a high likelihood of an accident or a speeding ticket. Right? We learned that when we first got GPS. You really can't drive fast enough to change your ETA. Well, you can. If you double or triple the speed limit, you can change your ETA. Learned that driving from Grove City, Ohio to Louisville, Kentucky in a Porsche 911. If you double the speed limit, you can drop your ETA. And if you triple the speed limit, boy, it just comes off in chunks. But it was 5 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Chance of an accident or a ticket, very, very low. Maybe not the smartest thing I've ever done, but it sure was fun. The problem with borrowing Porsches is it can be hard to find the gas tank. And once you find it can be hard to get it open. Because sometimes it's a flipper, it's like a little friction. You pop it and it comes open. When you're at the gas station, you're trying to act cool like it's your Porsche, whichever. Not knowing where the gas tank is will let people know, hey, this is not your car. And by the way, the Porsche 911 has changed so little that when this guy loaned it to me, I had no idea how old it was until I saw the slots for the cassette tapes in the dashboard. That's how I knew it was a pretty old car. Up until that point, you don't know because every Porsche looks the same. And your reload mags do not need to be full. If you guys are rocking long mags and carry optics open, any of the larger capacity divisions, your reload mag very rarely needs to be 100% full. And thumb a couple rounds out of that, especially on classifiers, 6 reload sixes, things like that. You don't need a 24.5 round magazine after that reload, right? And if you're somebody who knows you have trouble seating full mags, that means you know who you are. There's no reason that reload mags need to be completely full. Every now and then on a field course they might need to be, but that's pretty rare. And of course, if you're in a reduced capacity division, this isn't a problem for you. If you're in production or single stack, you're used to it, so it's not a big deal. All your visualized reps need to be complete. All of your walkthroughs need to be 100%. If you're going through the stage mentally or physically and you get interrupted or you have to stop, make sure you finish that all the way through. You do not want an incomplete visualization, particularly as your last one. And visualizing is much better than walking. Once you have the stages memorized, you need to be visualizing them as opposed to walking them for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're identical and they are perfect. And you can do as many as you want, and you can do them much quicker. You can get to double digits much, much quicker. Guys, double digits is not the goal. Double digits is that'd be up to 99. So let's say 10. 10 is not the end of visualizations or stage reps. 10 is the beginning, right? It needs to be at least double digits. That's the beginning of doing it right, not the end of doing it right. Great runs all start with knowing the stage inside and out. Every time we had a shooter from my group cross the stage and I went over and talked to him about it, the first thing they said was, I knew the stage inside and out. I knew it like the back of my hand. That's how all great performances start, with knowing the stage inside and out. I had one shooter mention that specifically. She said, I think that's been the biggest difference, is really, really, really knowing the stages. She said, I used to go up there and kind of look at it a couple of times. Okay, here's what I'm going to do, guys. That's a recipe for brain farts. That is a full plate of Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and a giant cup of coffee, right? That is going to be tootin'. And if you don't want to be tootin', please take my anti-tootin' tutelage. Knowing the stage inside and out will prevent brain farts. Anytime you get what you want, celebrate what you did, not what happened. If you burn the stage down, that's wonderful. I support that. I think that's great. How did you do it? What did you do specifically that you can do again that gave you that great result? This is the key to consistency, guys, is knowing what you're doing when you're getting what you want. I had a call with a guy coming up to his international national. Well, let's see, he's in the Czech Republic, so check this out. He knows more about his mistakes than he does about his successes. We're sitting there talking, and he's like, I'm struggling to remember what I was thinking about when I got it right. Could tell me all about his mistakes, all about his bad stages, all about his bad matches, but we couldn't get a template for what's going on when we're getting it right. You guys, you got to write this down. When you get what you want on a stage at a match, write down what you did, not what happened. You'll probably find that you had a beautiful subconscious stage plan that you had confidence in. You'll find you had confidence in your ability to execute the stage and make every shot. And you'll find that you had a low number of conscious thoughts while you were shooting. That's what you'll find. And you'll just need to document that in your own words so you can go out and do it again. Subconscious stage plan, singular focus, that is the key to success. Boom. 6 book done. Write it, ship it, call it good. If you don't get what you want, correct what you did, not what happened. So if you whacked a mic in a no-shoot, okay, that happens. Correct what you did, not think about what happened. If you're an intermediate to advanced shooter, you had a temporary lapse of visual patience, something got more important. You were shooting in the future tense instead of the present tense. If you're a new shooter, it was probably trigger. The irony of accuracy is that more advanced shooters are more likely to disrespect sight. Less advanced shooters are more likely to honk the trigger. This is so ironic because new shooters are smart enough to know something. And I'm not sure where they get this idea, but they learn pretty quickly that a poor sight picture produces a poor shot. The more advanced shooters tend to forget that. So the newer shooters will aim, honk, whack that trigger really hard after aiming a lot, whereas the advanced shooters tend to have better trigger control, but they disrespect the sight picture. So when you don't get what you want, correct what you did, not what happened. Focus on the correction, not the problem. And that covers it. That's 25 things we learned at this match. I had a couple of other ones that I was thinking about yesterday. Let me see if I can remember them. Here's one. The difference between a good shot and a bad shot is 3 to 500ths of a second. Simple as that, gang. Go back and look at your match. Get into Practice Score Competitor. Take your poor shots, add 500ths to the time, and replace the mic with a Charlie. Take out the no-shoot and add 500ths of a second to your time. I think you'll like the results. The only problem is, the only time you can make that deal and have it stick is when you're behind the gun. When the stage is over, you can't make that deal anymore. But when you're behind the gun, you can wait 3 to 500ths of a second for a slightly better sight picture. Mike's no-shoots will be reduced dramatically. I'm thinking back to, here's what we learned that Todd Jarrett is an amazingly nice guy, standing there minding my own business. Hey, Todd Jarrett. Of course, I reminded him to go shoot the snake. He's like, yeah, I'll shoot the snake. What else did we learn? Bring plenty of water. I'm just cycling through the match. Probably the most things we learned were on the last 2 stages. A little 14-round speed shoot, classifier right next door. They tried to get me to show them the turn and draw, and I wouldn't do it because I will not do technical discussion right before a stage. Won't do it. I don't care how you turn and draw. Well, I do kind of care, but I don't need you learning a brand new turn and draw right before you shoot a classifier. Won't even do it. But again, this match experience, it is highly recommended. If you can find a Saturday match and we can do class on Friday, match on Saturday, class on Sunday, that would be the absolute most bang for the buck you can get from AndersonShooting.com. We'll give you the basics. We'll show you match mode on Friday, take you to the match on Saturday, and then on Sunday, we can work on the technical stuff. Because we'll not do a technical class right before a match. Won't do it. Because technical classes, by definition, are learning new things. Well, I heard numerous people say, you think I ought to try this? No, you shouldn't try anything. Competition is for doing what you know you can do. It's not about for trying stuff. All right, quick clock check. Let's see how we're doing. We still got to walk 500 pounds of dog and be ready to do mental management very shortly. We are in great shape. Let's see if this is important. This is my this is my double tapper. Poor guy. You know, 2 shots on one sight picture, that only works inside your blast zone. And carry optics, that blast zone is going to start to diminish right at 7 yards. Open gun with a good comp and good timing can extend that blast zone a little bit further. But if you're conditioned to shoot 2 shots on one sight picture, the only reason you're still doing it is because you've had just enough luck. Just enough luck to avoid getting rid of it altogether. But we'll get that done for you. All right, folks, I got to go do mental management, or rather, I get to go do a mental management marathon. If you shoot better in practice than you do in competition, if you can't get out of your own head, if pressure causes you to crumble and you're shooting inconsistently, we can fix all of that with the ultimate mental game for practical shooting, powered, of course, by mental management. All right, folks, till we meet again, you please go to andersonshooting.com, upcoming classes, check out where we're going, what we're doing. If you want a class near you, all you got to do is let me know. Say, hey, I want to do a class, and we will get you all set up. And if you can get a match in there, that is even better. And until we do such a thing, or until we meet again. Oh, also, that reminds me, I want to congratulate all of my Anderson people for great performances at the Buckeye Blast. Joey Sauerland had a phenomenal finish. Jay Beal had a phenomenal finish. Drew Maruski did extremely well. There were a few other shooters. I'm sorry, I don't call you out by name. I will do a better job in the future of keeping track of you guys. But all my peeps that shot the Buckeye Blast, that's only 30 minutes here from the mighty range. And we will be at Carry Optics Nationals. That is money in the bank. We're going to for sure be there, probably hanging out with Jay Beal on the Super Squad. Pretty sure he's going to be on it. Don't know for sure, but that's where you'll be able to find me at the Buckeye Blast. Not the Buckeye Blast, but at Carry Optics Nationals. Also, 45 minutes from headquarters. So looking forward to seeing all you people there. Until that time, be like me, do what I do, say it with me. 1, 2, 3, get to work.